Welcome, everyone, to this briefing brought to you by the Israel Defense and Security Forum, IDSF, in Hebrew name is Bitronistim. IDSF is the leading Israeli organization advocating for strong national security to defend Israel. I'm joined today by the one and only Danny Seaman. Danny, thank you so much for joining today.
It's my pleasure, as always.
Danny, I have a question for you, just to jump right in there and to really rile you up. The issue of unity here in Israel, and what do the Israeli people want to see in this war? And just to give you a case in point, if I check out the Haaretz website, which is a well-known news source in Israel, Netanyahu's face, the entire war, everything that's happening in the Middle East is about Netanyahu. If I then go to Arutz Sheva on the very opposite side of the world, so to speak, of politics here in Israel, you get a very different message about what this war is all about. So my question to you, Danny, is what do the Israeli people want? What do the Israeli people think? And how do we build unity when there are such extremes in this country?
All right, I'll try to be civil about it. You mentioned Haaretz newspaper. I have a long history with that media outlet. I won't even call it a newspaper. But what the people want is unity. And most Israelis, the vast majority of Israelis say that. So you go to the extreme, which is Haaretz. Haaretz doesn't represent anything except its own political agenda, which has always been critical of the state of Israel. And therefore, that's where and unfortunately, too many people around the world, I can tell you based on things that we did within the government back when I was with the government press office, and I think I mentioned this, and I've interviewed about this, 100% of the foreign press stationed in Israel at the time, and I'm sure it's the same today, got their information off of Haaretz newspaper, English. Very few took from other sources. It's very unfortunate here, and one of the things I'm working on and trying to change is there's no real voice of the people here. In Hebrew, we have Channel 14, but they don't create English content. So people abroad, and this includes people in the administration, although with Haaretz newspaper and this administration, there's sort of one hand shakes the other. One fits the other and provides the other with the same kind of information. But they're sort of quoting Haaretz abroad as if they represent the public in Israel. It's one of the least, the papers that has the least exposure among Israelis themselves. The elite use it, and most of the people in government adhere to it, but they don't represent what the people think. And if you follow Israeli media, and you know that most people want that. But unfortunately, we have political extremes in this country. And too often, and as we know, media today is not there to provide us with information and be informative to the public so that we make an educated decision based on content that is provided to us. No, they're trying to sell. And what sells is this kind of conflict and this kind of things that will make us fight each other. Most Israelis have responded over the past 10 months, almost 11 months, very responsibly and are not dragged into it. It starts first off with the soldiers themselves and the reservists who are fighting shoulder to shoulder, regardless of their political opinions and differences, regardless of their background, etc. It goes with the families of those fighting there, who understand what their sons and daughters are telling us. And it continues with the vast majority of Israelis who understand what is happening. And I, by the way, every morning when I have my, every Thursday when I have my broadcast on Israeli radio, I say this, that regardless of all that's going on, we have to, the majority of us have to behave responsibly, remember what at stake here, and even at sometimes turn the other cheek, because we have to move on with what is most important right now is defeating our enemies. So don't get caught up with what you're hearing in the foreign media about the debates here, because it's just to get exposure and sell things. The public here are responsible, are serious, are supporting for the government to finish this job here with the Hamas and Hezbollah and Iran even, because we all know what is at stake here. and just trust what you're seeing from your Israeli friends. Unless they're a writer for Haaretz newspaper, then I would take it with a grain of salt.
Okay, so we should be very wary of mainstream media or many mainstream media outlets. Good to know. But in terms of just Israeli society, meaning putting the media on hold for a second, you know, in the US, when it comes to elections, there's two main parties. There's the Republicans and the Democrats. Here in Israel, in the last elections, there were 40 parties. So that alone shows you that Israeli society is potentially very fragmented. Would you agree with that assessment? So when you're saying that don't listen to the media, Israeli society wants victory in this war, is that the case, despite the fact that there's so much variation in political views and values?
Yeah, the Israeli public understand. Look, we understand that today we're facing an existential threat to our existence. It's not something we made up. We saw it, we understand it, and we listen, at least most of us do, to what our enemies are saying. And I think that this is one of the key things here in Israel. There are two trains of thought here. One is, or schools of thought. One school of thought is our imagination. Let's imagine that we can all, I'll use the reference to John Lennon. Let's imagine that we can all sit together and live together and we'll have peace, and we impose our own principles and, to some places, our own self-righteous virtues on the other side. They had for a long time during Oslo and other the disengagement, etc. They had also a voice in the Israeli media, and they could impose that way of thinking on the Israeli public here. But over the years, starting with the Intifada back in the year 2000, and then with the wars in Lebanon, and with the 17 different rounds of violence with Hamas, which ended in the concluded with the war that's broken out recently, and certainly since the war, those whose school of thought was always listen to what the other side is saying. Listen, they're not hiding. They're not being shy about what their intentions are. Even the PLO, who sat with us and signed agreements, and their leader won the Nobel Peace Prize, said very clearly that he's waiting for the right time. They never hid their intentions. Now most Israelis understand it. And I would say most Israelis are on that side, listening and at least seeing what the other side intended, and they're still not hiding it. You hear reports coming out of Gaza, they're not happy about Hamas, but they all support what happened on October 7th. Same way in Judea and Samaria. They all support Hamas. And the goal among Palestinians now is that Hamas becomes the leaders, because their goal, which is the destruction of the state of Israel, not the creation of an Arab state in Judea and Samaria or the Gaza Strip. No, they're not talking about that. And their demonstrators and their supporters abroad, you all hear this, from the river to the sea. They're very clear about it. It's not just a slogan. It's the annihilation of the state of Israel. So most Israelis understand that. Most Israelis understand what we're fighting against. And I wouldn't be too worried about us inside. There are those who want to cause and disintegrate the unity that we have here. And it's not only the Arabs, certainly the Iranians. And they're trying to push things. And today through social media, you can use different, you never know who's behind it. But they've also done it in the cognitive warfare that they've done through American and European universities, through Western media, but also through politicians in the West. And I wouldn't put it past some people in the American administration who also want to weaken Israel's resolve and don't want Israel to come out with a total victory in this battle. I wouldn't put it past them that they're also encouraging this because they don't like Netanyahu standing up to them and they want to weaken. And I stress here, Netanyahu is the prime minister elected by a majority of the Israelis. And today a majority of Israelis support him because he is the prime minister of Israel. And regardless of who the name is, whoever it would have been at this moment in the battle that we're facing, most Israelis support that person, that all the decisions are on his shoulders. But there are those elements who want to weaken Israel's resolve, and therefore they don't mind to strengthen this conversation about divisiveness and within Israeli society. Most Israelis are awake to that and understand it, and I wouldn't be too concerned about it.
Thank you for sharing that. I think it's an important perspective. You know, many of our viewers are Americans, and they're living in a very tense election cycle right now. And we don't discuss American politics on this briefing, and we try even to stay away from Israeli politics. But very often Americans will look at Israel through the same lens as the political landscape and the fights that happen in the U.S. And as you're saying, that's not the case. Just because there's a large variety of parties here in Israel doesn't mean there's not a unifying force around some key issues. For example, victory in the war. I hope I paraphrased what you said, okay, and didn't put words in your mouth.
I'd just like to stress one point, that I'm not saying this or that administration. The Americans have their own interests. They've always had their own interests. Those have not always coincided with the interests of the state of Israel. The only people around the world, unfortunately, who believe that, oh, let's be nice and everybody will love us, and think that any other country in the world does what is in, because they like us, no, every country will do what is in its own self-interest. And that goes for the United States as well. So yes, we have shared values, and we have a lot of things that bring us together, including the peoples of both sides. But at the end of the day, the American country as a nation will do what is in the interest of the United States. And at the same time, we have to do what is in the interest of the state of Israel. I, by the way, do not believe that these interests in any way are conflicting in that sense. Some Americans may want to increase American influence in the Arab world. That does not put them in a direct confrontation with the state of Israel, but it doesn't serve our interests. So people have to remember that.
For sure. And I want to thank all of our viewers and supporters who are tuned into the briefing, whether here on our live Zoom or watch on the replay on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, consider subscribing to really help us get these briefings out and share the truth. Many people are sending in questions, Danny, and I think we need to maybe address a little bit about what's happening in this war. Are you able to give us a little bit of an update about the different events that have happened in Israel in the past day or so?
Well, it's summer here, and we're all with our kids doing things to keep them occupied. I have to check. I'll look at the news here to see if the war broke out, because we've been waiting now for about a month for this major war to break out. So, and I'm looking outside right now. No, it doesn't seem that it's happened. Now, I can be very facetious about it. No, this big war with Iran hasn't happened yet. And though we've been promised that it's going to happen imminently, it's going to happen by this day, after the Olympics, after this or that, there are many things that are included in this. So it's hard to say. We have to keep our alert up and be prepared, because Iranians have not finished this thing. And we are at war with Iran since day one. The world needs to have things very processed and very clear. This is a major war going on right now. Today, we have the three fronts. The one in the north is the one that's been increasing, with Israel taking out two things. First off, arms depots that are held by Hezbollah and damaging their ability to strike at Israel. In the past 2 nights, we were able to strike some of the major arms depots that they have, big fireworks in Lebanon that scared a lot of the Lebanese and let them understand what may happen to them if Hezbollah does continue with its intent. There was also the targeted killings of leaders today of a PLO, an Iranian, a former PLO member who's a member of the Iranians today in Tyre in South Lebanon. The north of Israel has been hit by several missiles. They're now no longer targeting military installations, but the towns and villages. Today it was in Katzirin, and they hit 2 homes. Luckily, nobody was killed. 1 person was injured. Interesting thing here, I see that from the news today, that the Beirut airport was reopened, meaning they may be now, there's some kind of indication that Hezbollah is not really bent on going to total war against us. The second front is Judea and Samaria. We continue there with although this is under control, these areas under control of those who have a peace treaty with us, the PLO, the Palestinian Authority. There are terrorist organizations that are operating there. And by the way, in the north of Israel, police stopped 2 Israeli Arabs who were planning to throw firebombs at Jewish vehicles traveling in the north of Israel. So you have that happening as well. And finally, in Gaza, several things. There was you probably heard in the news, a school was taken out. Israel bombs a school. The Hamas are using again and again and again civilian installations, hospitals, and schools, and building they're moving into places that Israel has moved out of. Anybody talking about the negotiations going on and where this may lead us, and if we're going to move out of places we've already reduced the presence of our soldiers, have already had Hamas come back in and address these places to use them as facilities against Israel, and they're using civilian locations, knowing that if Israel, and we are bombing these places. And by the way, if anybody asks you, according to international law, the international stipulates very clearly, any place used as an attempt to assault civilians in another place, meaning if they're using those places to target our civilians, it becomes a legitimate target. And Israel is within its right to attack these places and eliminate the threat to our civilians. And as I've said time and time again on CNN and other places over the years, we cannot be more responsible for their civilians than they themselves are. They know where they're firing from. We don't always know. All we know is that they fired in the direction of our civilians, and our responsibility, like any other country in the world, is first and foremost the defense of our civilians, not necessarily through protective means such as the Iron Dome, but also taking out the threat. So this is what has been happening in Gaza. Today, the IDF spokesman gave them an announcement in Arabic to leave the areas of Deir el-Balah and other locations in Gaza that we have not entered yet. Up until now, these have been locations that Israel has not gone into, and we've informed them overnight that the civilian population are to leave these locations because we will be moving in there imminently and taking out. I can add something here that's not in the news. These are places that Israel deliberately did not target, even by bombings over the past 10 months, for reasons that have not been cleared by the military censorship in Israel. And you can reach your own conclusions to what that means. And but if you combine that with the incidents of the last few days, I think you can understand what we're going in for right now and why these have been left for the final stage of the assault on Gaza.
Danny, thank you for sharing all of that. And I think people are now going to be kind of glued to the news to understand and read between the lines what you're suggesting. You are a media expert. You follow the media. You're engaged with the media. Hezbollah sent out this video of their tunnels. Is that part of their psychological warfare? Was that directed to scare Israelis, to threaten us? What do you make of that?
Scare, look, they're a constant part of their activities over the years has been the psychological element of it. Unfortunately, we have been less engaged in that and put more of an effort in the main battlefield, not understanding how cognitive warfare is very much a part of what is going on. It's not only to affect their side, and not only to affect the psychology of the people on our side, but also to influence people abroad so they understand what's going on. We failed at that miserably over the years. Here they are doing several things. First off, to encourage themselves. You know, they're like they're trying to show that they have other abilities, but this sort of boomeranged on them among the Lebanese, because the Lebanese, who never elected Hezbollah, are saying, we don't have electricity. We have times of day we don't have running water, and the electricity is down, and gasoline is scarce, and everything. And yet you have these tunnels that are supposedly hundreds of kilometers long. Over the years, we've known of the attempts, and I think a few years ago, Israel was able to stop at least 5 or 6 tunnels that were built there that we saw had entrances into Israel and destroy those capabilities. But as we've discovered with Gaza, even with Gaza, the estimate in Israel was anywhere between 70 to 100, maybe 200 kilometers of tunnels in the Gaza Strip. What we've discovered right now is there's over 700 to 1,000 kilometers of tunnels, and not to mention the dozens of tunnels going in from Egypt into Gaza from the Philadelphia route there. So we can understand that we may not have that kind of information. For those of you here who don't know, there's a difference, because the attitude towards Hezbollah, at least in the past 20 years, has been that we know they're a threat. We know that at some point there's going to be a war with them. And therefore, the intelligence gathering there has been more precise than what happened, unfortunately, with the failure that happened with the Gaza Strip. So we have more information about what's going on there. I would say the most from this is, yes, to scare Israelis, but more to deter the IDF, to let us think that we don't know everything that's going on there. But I think the two incidents in the past 2 nights, in which we took out these arms depots of theirs, which were supposed to be very secretive, lets them understand we're sending them a message that we know more than they think that we know. So there's a whole game going on here, that every assumption that you have, yes, there's a little bit of every one of those things.
So, Daniel, let me ask you a tough question. The information warfare, the psychological warfare, who is winning that battle right now?
Listen, this has been a battle that's been, the Iranians started off over 40 years ago. From the moment they took over, their goal was to delegitimize the Israeli right to having a state, and to delegitimize the Jewish right to self-determination. And they've succeeded to a large degree. They've worked through with universities. They've put money into these things. You have demonstrations in the United States through a generation of youth who are been brainwashed by what they've been getting in their universities. And by the way, universities in the United States are also responsible for creating the curriculum in high schools in their regions. And so even high school textbooks have been influenced by this. But we also know that the demonstrations that are going on are also funded by Iran, and also funded by anti-Israeli groups. So they've been influencing the pattern of thought. Yet despite this, you have a vast majority of Americans who still support Israel because of the shared values, because of the whole essence of the United States, which is based on the Judeo-Christian values that we share, which are in essence stem from Judaism. So these still work, and a vast majority of Americans still understand, despite media, despite what you're seeing with the demonstrations, it's a battle between good and evil. And the Americans understand what good is and what evil is, and they understand what side Israel is on. And the more we move into this, the more this is being exposed. So yeah, we may have lost it, but on many other things, I think good old common sense, most Americans with that understand what in essence is happening here, as do a lot of Europeans. And over the years, unfortunately, the media has given a platform to a lot of the anti-Israeli, and then you have the United Nations and all these different human rights organizations who are funded to a large degree by Arab organizations and Muslim and Islamic organizations, and they'll take the money and sell their souls. They've been able to at least create the impression that Israel is in the wrong, but we shouldn't be discouraged by that.
Danny Seaman, always a pleasure to speak with you, to learn from you. Thank you so much for joining this briefing. Very much appreciate it. Thank you to all of our viewers and all of our supporters for tuning into this briefing. I have actually a special announcement to make that in about a month from now, we're going to have an IDSF delegation to Toronto. General Avivi is coming to town, and I know we have hundreds and hundreds of supporters and followers in Toronto, so I'd like to make an appeal. If anyone listening to this broadcast lives in Toronto and wants to help us set up a speech for General Avivi to reach as many people as possible in the Toronto community, please reach out to me. We have a lot of great people right now in Toronto working on it, and I think all of our friends in the area who are looking for connections and contacts and venues. And I'll just throw this out there to the public. If anyone can help us set up a large lecture in Toronto in about a month from now, it would be greatly appreciated. With that, I thank everyone for joining this briefing. We will be back with you tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern time, 5 p.m. here in Israel. Until then, stay safe, stay strong. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.